It's 10 p.m. in Banjul. This is the news force, the headlines. President Jammeh Babili Mansa announces plans to provide Banjul with new development initiatives at a crowd-pulling meeting in the capital city, marking the climax of his dialogue with the people's tour. The 4th edition of Fashion Week in Gambia takes center stage, with lifestyle diseases like diabetes and hypertension at the heart of this year's theme. Venezuela's ruling Socialist Party in danger of losing its majority for the first time in over a decade, as the country holds crucial National Assembly elections. And Britain on high alert, this as police threat a knife attack at least one train station as a terrorist act, days after the country's parliament approved airstrikes on the Islamic State ISIS in Syria. These and other stories coming ahead in this half hour. I am MOMODOU. The President, His Excellency Sheikh Professor Dr. Alhaji Yahya AJJ Jammeh Babili Mansa has wrapped up his countrywide tour last evening with a crowd-pulling meeting in Banjul. The President announced plans to provide the capital city with new development initiatives such as housing schemes and infrastructural development. As we hear in this report by H.N. Silver, the meeting was attended by the Vice President and Minister of Women's Affairs, Her Excellency Ajah Dr. Aissatou Njie Sedi, a cross-section of cabinet members, and thousands of APRC supporters.
After almost 4 eventful weeks of crisscrossing the length and breadth of the country, where meetings and development site visits were conducted, the curtains of the 2015 presidential tour were drawn in Banjul with a colorful meeting at the gigantic I-22 grounds. The capital city of Banjul is one coastal settlement that benefited from a major coastal embankment rehabilitation project by the Jammeh administration over the years, in a calculated move to preserve the historic island from submerging into the waves. This major boost does not only reinforce the city's pillars, it also enables it to hold sanctuary of a list of one of the finest and reputable edifices in the country, such as the new National Assembly complex and the iconic I-22 memorial. These landmark accomplishments, underpinned by the July 22nd revolution, did not go unnoticed by Banjulians, not to mention Mayor Abdoulaye Ba and Alhaji Obi Konate, who both paid glowing tribute to the president for giving the city a new lease of life. The duo vowed to remain loyal to the president and the APRC party while calling on their people to follow suit. Veteran professional footballer Biri Njie, who also holds the portfolio of the regional chair of the ruling APRC party, and his colleague Fatou Ba wanted the Gambian leader to improve the conditions of the roads and sewage system of the city. Mrs. Ba, who joined her people to reassure another landmark victory in the 2016 elections, also pleaded with the president to assist the city council with a waste collector. Yankuba Koli, the national mobilizer of the APRC party and mayor of the Kanifing municipality, paid homage to party stalwarts, the law enforcement, and people of all walks of life for accompanying the president on the just concluded tour. Mayor Koli also took time to express thanks to the people of the Upper River region and Basse in particular for staging the best turnout during the tour. The Minister of Transport, Works and Infrastructure, Balagaba Jahumpa, later took to the floor to set the stage for the president's highly anticipated statement to Banjulians. The action man reassured the inhabitants that their concerns are high on the president's development agenda. The Banjul-born politician also used the gathering to call on his people to nurture the existing tolerance and peace the city is renowned for. The meeting climaxed with President Jammeh Babili Mansa's impressive statements in which he laid out plans to expand the city with new housing schemes. The president also pledged to, among other things, construct strategic roads and sewage systems in places like Tobacco Road, Half-Die and other places in few years' time. The Gambian leader further made announcements to revamp the sandy beach of the city to a more attractive recreation area. To put the icing on the cake, Professor Jame promised to dish out loan schemes to the women and youths of Banjul. The schemes, he stressed, are meant to empower their endeavors and must be used for its intended purpose. President Jame finally took a swipe at the practice of skin bleaching by a teeming masses of women in the country. The president, who is no fan of the practice, deplored skin bleaching as a health hazard and ungodly act. The president's constitutionally sanctioned tour was all but a successful journey, which provided him with the opportunity to hear and solve some challenging issues facing the citizenry, as well as see firsthand the state of a number of development projects across the country. Echan Silva, GRTS News.
The 3-day training on Trafficking in Persons Act 2007 and Child Protection under the auspices of the National Agency Against Trafficking in Persons has come to an end at a local hotel. The training, organized to acquaint partners with standards of the West African Network on Child Protection, was funded by the International Social Services. Details in this report by Esatuketa.
It is the end of a 3-day training focusing on the Trafficking in Persons Act 2007 and Child Protection, availing participants the opportunity to arm themselves with the requested knowledge and skills regarding their role in child protection, as well as identification of traffic victims, amongst a host of others.
Training is very important and is educative and timely. As an immigration officer working at the border, this type of training is essential. And we acquire a lot of knowledge from this training and experience. And if we go back to our various stations, we will disseminate this information to our colleagues to strengthen and to...
The exercise was meant to sensitize security personnel on the Trafficking in Persons Act that seeks to protect traffic victims, as well as informing development stakeholders on the harmful effects of trafficking on the lives of victims.
To train the frontliners, the frontline managers, who are usually, the first point of contact between the victims, the traffickers. If they have the skills and the wherewithals to understand how to identify victims, how to go about, supporting the prosecution to prosecute the cases, it's going to raise awareness to another level, and it will help to make the work much more easier, not only for us, but for everybody in the country.
Definitely, I've learned a lot, because it is through this course that I have come to realize that human trafficking is in existence in the Gambia, because we have been able to, because we attended it together with victims, some of whose revelations are very startling, and we are able to learn from them. Having learned that, we'll be able to monitor at the border from experience now.
Trafficking, which is a crime against humanity, has affected the lives of many young people in the country. But according to officials, addressing the menace calls for concerted efforts.
International Labour Organization, ILO, trafficking in human beings has reached epidemic proportions over the course of the past 2 decades. The weakest and most vulnerable victims, usually women and children, are more likely to fall prey to human traffickers who use tactics to deceive, intimidate, and win the trust of their victims.
Participants have assured to use the knowledge gained as an important tool to guide them in their duties.
Accounts of what has happened to some of our fellow Gambians, to some of the girls who have experienced it firsthand, and I think until you hear exactly what is going on out there, it's difficult to really appreciate what our people are going through. I think it's made me more determined to do something about it, and also to allow myself and Flag to see how we can join the network more effectively, and how we can all work together to eradicate this blight on society.
This training, which forms part of a series of programs organized under the auspices of the National Agency Against Trafficking in Persons, will in no small measure go a long way in their quest to put an end to trafficking in the Gambia. Esatuketa, GRTS.
The 4th edition of the Fashion Week in Gambia was held in grand style at a local hotel. The two-day event witnessed an immaculate show by the biggest fashion names and brands in the country, as well as upcoming fashionistas. The theme for this year's event, My Body is a Temple, was dedicated to the fight against lifestyle diseases such as diabetes and hypertension.
From the dressing room to the runway, Fashion Week in Gambia is the biggest fashion event for young and upcoming Gambians whose tools of trade does not only include fabrics with patterns, scissors and measuring tapes, but rather an artistic illustration of their innate talent towards fashion. The Fashion Weekend platform aspires to bring young designers and creative artists together to showcase creativity with the ambition to introduce a more vibrant and promising fashion industry for the Gambia.
Fashion Week in Gambia team, it started with Lena Gray Johnson. This is her idea, but then we worked together. It's Lena Gray Johnson, myself, Adi Conte, and Soa Manjai. We are the management team of Fashion Week in Gambia. So every year we put this together, and this year it seems like we've had a really good turnout, and we're very happy, very happy.
Since the first ever Fashion Week in Gambia in 2012, the event has grown to attract the attention of international fashion moguls, designers and bloggers. In attendance were fashionistas, bloggers and dignitaries from far and near. And the First Lady of the Republic, Her Excellency Madam Zainab Yahya Jammeh, was represented by the Honorable Minister of Justice, Mama Fatima Singate. Gambia's fashion showcase will not be complete without an exhibition from Gambia's Yaawa Konate, whose collection was inspired by the country's 50th independence anniversary. To portray diversity and growth in the country's rising fashion industry, the event also witnessed an induction of new designers whose showcase proved that they deserve a place among the country's list of fashion icons.
My main inspiration came from visiting some local women in Dipokunda. And these are women entrepreneurs, Sarahule women, doing batik. And some of my designs are batik, actually, like the men's two-piece suit. And I decided that I wanted to support local Gambian women entrepreneurs.
Fashion Week in Gambia was conceived and created by a group of women in the fashion industry who live, breathe fashion. And for many of them, this night is the biggest night of the year. For all fashionistas around the world, tonight is the night that they come together to celebrate and showcase what they can do for the country. And this is a platform where many locally groomed fashion designers transcend to the international scenes. Well, tonight for these people showcasing here, fashion is not just about what you wear, when you wear, how you wear, or where you wear it. For them, fashion is a lifeline. For GRTS, I am Tenenjite.
A financial analysis on the feasibility of an autonomous business and intellectual property registry here in the Gambia was the subject of a recent validation exercise, courtesy of Maxis Consulting. As Educator reports, the two-pronged gathering also sought to sensitize members of the public on business formalization.
Gathered for a day-long validation exercise for the financial analysis on the feasibility study of establishing an autonomous business and intellectual property registry for the Ministry of Justice together with the Gambia Growth and Competitiveness Project.
The establishment of an autonomous business and intellectual property registry is a very important exercise in the sense that it's in line with the best practice around the world. Today, especially in Africa, we have countries with similar characteristics which have undertaken this very important exercise and have successfully been able to come up with an autonomous intellectual business and intellectual property registry.
Consulted by Maxis Consulting, the project seeks to provide a detailed financial feasibility analysis that will guide in formulating future strategies for autonomous operations of the single window and intellectual property registry.
I wish to say a special thanks to the entire team that have worked the extra mile to make this one of the most well-managed project with strict adherence to high-quality standards and project timeline. The yardstick used to implement this assignment is one with high rigor.
The benefits of this single window registry is said to be immense, as it will provide a single point of interaction between businesses and governments, thus helping to create a more efficient service delivery and administration.
We have registered a lot of business, particularly the informal sector also. The demand has increased and there is need to have the system very efficient. As a result, this study was commissioned to develop a plan that will see the autonomous of the registry, set up a registry that will be autonomous, will be more effective and efficient to serve the business people in the Gambia.
The validation of this document is said to be the start of a roadmap for the business sector to be more effective and efficient, so as to serve the business people, as well as improving the business environment of the Gambia. Aisa Tuketa, GRTS.
We'll be back with news from outside the Gambia after this short break. Don't go away. Welcome back. Crucial elections are underway in Venezuela, with voters choosing new members of the National Assembly. Opinion polls say the ruling Socialist Party is in danger of losing its majority for the first time in over a decade, but it remains popular in rural areas and would retain control over the powerful presidency. Details in this DWTV report.
People keen to get their votes in at this polling station in Caracas, but observers, including Reporters Without Borders and Human Rights Watch, say they doubt whether this election will be free and fair. All the same, polls show the Conservative opposition stands a good chance of topping the incumbent socialists in the legislature. We know how to struggle, fight and win, and let the government know that we will earn, defend and execute this victory. The opposition Democrat Unity Roundtable coalition is likely to benefit from people's discontent with the current government. An economic slump has led to widespread shortages. The desperation of the people has reached its limit. We have insecurity and shortages of basic goods and medicines. Hospitals are falling apart. President Nicolas Maduro, who has been in office since 2013, says the opposition just wants to cater to Venezuela's elites. He says a conservative victory will cause unrest and even violence. Sunday's election is a choice between two models: the model of the pure Bolivarian and Chavista homeland, and the model of the anti-homeland, backstabber, Yankee and crooked right. Maduro refuses to take any criticism. Anti-government protests have been suppressed and many opposition politicians have been detained. These elections may well result in a shift in Venezuela's political landscape.
To Britain now, police are treating a knife attack as a terrorist act. 2 people were wounded at Leaston train station in the east of the city. Police have arrested the attacker. This comes as Parliament approves airstrikes in Syria on a group known as the Islamic State.
Local media have reported the man with the knife talked about Syria before he attacked.
I look over, I see a guy huddled on the floor behind the barriers and a guy brandishing a knife. It was a small blade, probably about 3 inches long, and then he's screaming, "Go on then, run, run." And there's just people like wanting to go forward to try and help the guy, but the guy standing on just right next to him just brandishing the knife. So
police were quick to reach Leytonstone station and made an arrest. One man was seriously hurt, but his injuries are not said to be life-threatening. Britain is on its second highest terror alert level, with fears high that Islamic State extremists will mount an attack. Authorities declined to comment on reports that the suspect claimed he was retaliating for Western attacks on militants in Syria.
France's anti-immigration National Front is tipped to win the largest share of the vote in regional elections being held on Sunday. Opinion polls show the FN taking almost 30% of the votes cast. The National Front has gained support in the wake of last month's attack on Paris.
She's the one everyone's watching. Has Marine Le Pen's hour finally come? Polls ahead of Sunday's election suggested this could be the case. After completing a revamp of her xenophobic Front National, she's also benefited from fears after last month's Paris terror attacks. In recent days, she focused her campaign on security and the issue of refugees and migrants in Calais. I hope many French people will go and vote. I think it's an important moment, important for the future of our regions, important also for the future of our country, important with regard to the catastrophic and dramatic events that have hit France. The elections are only for regional assemblies, but are seen as an indicator for the presidential race in 2017. Some are wary of a Le Pen presidential victory. There could be a danger in France for the 2017 presidential election if Marine Le Pen wins. And for Europe, France will turn in on itself, and I think Europe will then progressively dismantle. So we should avoid at all costs voting for Marine Le Pen. The man challenges Socialist President François Hollande. He has seen his personal popularity soar after the attacks, but that's failed to translate into a poll boost for his struggling Socialist Party. For Le Pen's National Front, victory in even one region would be historic. It's never before held the leadership of a French region.
We take our second break now. Sports is next. Welcome back into sports now. The Gambia National Olympics Committee today held its annual general meeting. The event, as we hear in this report by Babakar Senghor, afforded local sporting associations the platform to mount out strategies crucial to their advancement.
All three reports of the Gambia National Olympic Committee were fully appreciated by members of the various sporting associations who attended this day-long annual general meeting. GNOC boss assured his office's continuous support to national sporting associations for the improved accountability and youth development in the drive to achieve excellence and sustainable sports development program.
In this regard, the management and executive board of the GNOC shall continue to give the necessary guidance and support to national sports associations, taking cognizance of the principles of good governance, accountability, and youth development in its drive to achieve excellence and sustainability.
The board further dilated on the importance of cooperation with international federations, which he added will help national associations realize their collective aspirations.
All sports associations wanting to be part of the Olympic movement must meet the requisite criteria of the IFs and be in good standing before being recognized and accepted by the IOC and the other organs of the movement. The regular liaison with IFs helps your association to keep abreast with information on games preparation and participation and other vital elements, which ultimately gets down to the athlete who is central in the process of sports development.
On the financial front, the local NOC, according to the report, registered a successful period of operations. Alhaji Usman Wada is the treasurer of the Gambia National Olympic Committee.
The year 2013, if you look at the balance sheet, we have a reduction of 22% as net assets and a working capital increase by 102%. This is because of the over overdraft facility with Engage.
The Gambia National Olympic Committee has seen an increase in its operations during the year under review. And as highlighted by the Secretary General's report, the NOC continues to actively partake in the development of sports in the country through support to various national sporting associations, with GNOC officials maintaining that this vital organization is ready to continue what has been a period of tremendous support to its home members. It will be vital to note that this will come with the need to unify efforts to ensure these objectives are achieved for the benefit of the country's sporting fraternity. For Grts Sport, this is Baukar Sengan.
And before we take leave of you, a recap of the day's main stories. The President, His Excellency Sheikh Professor Alhaji Dr. Yahya AJJ Jammeh Babili Mansa, has announced plans to provide Banjul with new development initiatives at a crowd-pooling meeting in the capital city, marking the climax of his dialogue with the People's Store. The 4th edition of Fashion Week in Gambia has taken center stage at a local hotel, with lifestyle diseases like diabetes and hypertension at the heart of this year's theme. Venezuela's ruling Socialist Party is in danger of losing its majority for the first time in over a decade, as the country holds crucial National Assembly elections. And in Britain, police treat a knife attack at Leystone train station as a terrorist act, coming days after the country's parliament approved airstrikes on the Islamic State in Syria. Well, that was all in this edition of the News at 10. Thanks for the pleasure of your company. To stay with GRTS and enjoy the rest of our interesting programs.